Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Laurie Buckley on the podcast with us. She's a wife and mom. She's also a competitive bodybuilder, and she's coming to us all the way from Georgia. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Laurie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
Well, I've actually been a vegetarian for probably 25 years. And about 3 years ago, I decided just to take an extra step and become vegan. So I did that. And I was at the same time, I was a runner. And I wasn't really seeing like a lot of muscle development. So my husband said, maybe you should join a gym. So actually just about 3 years ago, I just started going to the gym, and I saw really fast results. And I came across some really great people who ended up being my coaches. And they approached me and asked me did I ever think about competing? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. So I did a little bit of research, and I was, afraid to kind of get bulky and stuff, but now I just embrace it. Right. So they actually are out of my gym. They're both bodybuilders. They write my nutrition for me and everything, and my whole program. They train with me. So I'm really blessed to have come across these wonderful people.
I love that. I love that she's also vegan too, because we have so many people come on that are just, we've had vegan bodybuilders on too, but then a lot of people just have that myth that like you cannot get muscular, you can't bulk up if you're vegan, but there are just so many alternatives to it. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that later. But I always, sort of like to make the comparison. If you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how people got into shape, whether it comes, to their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. Was that hard for you to sort of figure out what worked best for your body? Because I always like to say, if you were to go up to someone and say like, wow, what do you do for that body part? That's amazing. What worked best for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you.
Totally. I think a lot of it has to do with just the way you're, genetically built, right? And we've tried a lot of different things. My coaches and I, we do everything. We do heavy movements, heavy weights and slower movements and a lot of reps. So it's just a lot of playing around with it and then kind of tweaking the body parts at the end, when we get closer to a competition. So, we just kind of play around with it, and we've really gotten to know my body a lot in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah, it's all, trial and error. Yeah, absolutely. It's just about finding out what works, and it's a time process. I always love to say, especially with, my generation, where everyone, I want it now and I want it yesterday with results and everything, where it's like, it's such a time process where you just got to relax and let it come to you. And once you start seeing those results, it gets addictive, and then you never want to stop. So
yes, it's like crack.
Oh, it's a good kind of crack. Like I always like to say, it's like, I'd rather be addicted to working out and looking good than I would with anything else. So whenever people would say, some of our guests on here where they're like, oh yeah, you're addicted to that. It's like, well, what being addicted to looking good? It's like, okay, sign me up.
I know, that's right. Yeah, I don't want to have like little pock marks and scratches over my skin, I feel like I look good at 51.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, you guys, 51, she doesn't look a day over 29. Okay. So let's be honest.
Wow.
Let's be honest. That's the benefit of working out. I always say that to everyone that comes on. It's like, look at some of our guests. You can never tell the way that it's like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. She's 51 and she has better arms than, most of the guys basically 99% of the guys that I know. So it's like, come on, people.
I do hear that. Yeah,
absolutely. So when you did get started out, I always like to hear, what is one body part that really, took off for you that that you don't have to train as much now? And then everyone always has that struggling body part that they really have to put into overdrive training wise. What are those for you?
So for me, definitely my shoulders came first. So I have like really broad shoulders. And in fact, the judges at this point have told me, do not grow your shoulders anymore, because figure competing is all about symmetry, right? So it's front to back, left to right, the whole thing. It's the entire package. So that part for me is good to go. So it's low key on that body part, and really my legs are the part that needs to come up. So it's always the hardest part for girls, I think, for the glutes, right? So always working on that, and my quads, which for me are really tough because my knees at my age and being a runner for many years are kind of wrecked.
Oh, yeah.
But we work around it. My coaches have found a lot of things that we can do instead of doing a lot of heavy squats, a lot of different things instead of,
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I always like to say, for me, back is one of the things for me where I could train back once a month and it would still look good. But I mean, it's like, that's it. It's just one of
Yeah.
those things. But with me, I mean, I'm just like everyone else. Like you said, legs for me is my biggest struggle. I mean, I could train
Uh-huh.
legs, all the time. I'm also one of those people that was blessed with small calves. I wouldn't say blessed, but was more cursed with small calves. Where I could do 1,000 calf raises a day and nothing would happen. But also, for me, being 6'3" doesn't really help that much either with legs because I'm just gonna be lanky at all. So I would have to do, I would have to train, 24/7 with legs to get,
I feel you. I'm
any
almost
big
6 feet
growth.
tall, so same thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So finally we have another tall, because one of the big things that I always like to ask during my questionnaire is like, what is a big misconception that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person? For everyone, almost it's always like, yeah, I'm like 5'2" or something like that. So like, it's like, the only other guest that we have on, I had a guest who was like the tallest ever figure competitor, and she was 6'3". And then so that
Hmm.
was, and she was like 5 minutes away from me. She lived, and I had no idea. But yeah, I mean, so that's awesome that we have another tall. So we can talk a little bit more about struggles that tall people go through in the gym then, because there are
It is a
struggles that a
struggle.
lot
Yeah.
of people can, yeah, that a lot of people can do. But now, I mean, when you were getting started, how long did it really take before you were ready to compete in your first bodybuilding show? How long was the training process?
So I started working with my coaches. So my coaches wanted me to do an SNBF show, which is a really kind of a Christian-based all-natural show. And so we started working together in, I think it was like February of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So hasn't been that long ago. And I have been, working out at the gym pretty frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started working out in probably about February to train for the Lee Haney show, which was, sorry, let me back up. We were working toward an SNBF show. And then which was going to be in October of the same year. So really not that long. And because we were just kind of putting our foot in the door doing an SNBF show, thinking it's not going to be NPC. I don't really have to be like big, whatever. And then I went to posing, which was a whole different thing. I didn't know I had to find a posing coach and all this other kind of stuff. So when I went to posing, my posing coach said, there's no way you're doing an SNBF show. You are up here and they are down here. So we switched gears and started to train for the Lee Haney show, which was in October. So really from February to October, so 10 months basically. And I competed in that. It's a big show, stacked show. And it was very intimidating for my first show. But I won every category.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is I did win the open for my height class, but you don't really have to compete against women that are younger. You know what I mean? So I was 50 at the time, so I could compete against other 50-year-old women.
Oh, but that's still super, super impressive. I mean, that's, winning that
Yeah.
first show. So I was going to ask, I always love to ask, what's that prep like for the first time? Because so many people don't realize, I mean, just getting in shape, that's hard enough on, the majority of people, just with the nutrition and the diet and the working out that they have to do to get in. But then going into prep, I mean, that's just notching it up a whole different extreme level where it's just, you always got to eat at this time. I mean, it's got to be the perfect food. It's got to be, you got to work out all the time. You cannot miss any days. What was that experience like for you the first time going on prep?
So, it was a little stressful. I mean, I do love to eat, so that wasn't a problem. I mean, we got to a point where we were up to 4,000 calories a day, and my body was just burning through it. I wasn't gaining any weight. So it was a challenge, but I also loved it at the same time. I am very goal oriented and very competitive. So it was fun for me. And actually at the same time, it was fun for them and a challenge because they had never worked with a middle-aged vegan competitor before. In fact, they were hesitant to work with me, but it was great. I mean, I also work full time. So this is not my full-time life, right? I have a 50-hour-a-week job. And so I'm going to the gym 3:30 in the morning. I'm getting up, going to the gym, working my full day. And then I'm in the gym at the back end of the day too. And you're right, eating like seven times a day.
Wow.
A lot of tofu.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I was going to say, when the biggest misconception, I think, especially with vegan competitors, is that I hear from so many people is like, well, how do they even get their protein in? Because some people just still have that belief where it's like meat is the only source of protein that's like ever existed. So what are some ways that you still are able to get that protein in while, having that vegan lifestyle?
Yeah, so I eat like a pound of tofu a day. And I know a lot of guys think, it's going to give me moobs or whatever. It's got a very small amount of estrogen in it. I mean, it does have some, but there are ways to kind of work around
Yeah.
that, things that natural things you can take to kind of subside
Mhm.
the estrogen. And I eat tempeh. I use pea protein and rice protein. I mix it in with my food. I mean, I get plenty of protein.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
about 150 pounds, maybe 145 at stage
Mhm.
weight, and I'm getting probably 190 grams of protein a day just through my diet.
Oh, absolutely. And like for a lot of people out there, I always like to say, like there's even stuff like peanut butter is like really good in protein. I mean, there's so many different things that
True,
are
yeah, yeah.
not just meats that everyone seems to think of. And I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I love my hamburgers, so I mean, I'll never go vegan myself. But I mean, the people that are still able to look that good while being vegan, I was like, that's more power. That's more power to them, because that to me is just absolutely amazing. But was it something? I mean, going into a show, was it, because I always like to say, if you were to poll the general population, you get a small singular percentage of people that would basically be willing to go up in a bikini and pose in front of people. I mean, it takes a lot of courage. Was that something that you sort of had to work up, or was it one of those things where you're just like, hey, I've worked my butt off. I just want to go up there and show off, or was it sort of a combination of the two when it came to your mental preparation for the show?
I was scared shit to
Yeah.
get up in front of people. Little triangles. I mean,
Yeah.
what really helped me was going to posing every Saturday. And you get up there in a group of people, and men and women, because they're all working on their posing, men physique and bodybuilding, and we're taking turns and working with each other. And you get used to it. It just every week going back and practicing. I walked around my house with my high heels on in my bikini. My husband loved it. But you do have to work up to
Yep.
it's a lot.
Now, being a taller person, did the heels was that really a struggle for you?
At first, yes.
Yes.
I mean, I did everything in the heels. They actually told us, when you get the heels, do everything. Empty the dishwasher, vacuum your house, whatever you have to do, just get used to it. I was like a chihuahua. I was like, wiggling around in those things. And they're like 5 inches. So I am well over 6
Yeah.
feet in those things. So it's definitely hard to get used to. And they're also uncomfortable.
Yep. That's what I always like to say. It's like I would pay so much money to see some of the guys have to wear those heels and walk out on stage. I mean, see like Jay Cutler and some of those guys. I mean, first of all, it would break the internet and they'd make so much money, so they might want to get
Right.
into it. But I mean, like, yeah, that would be hilarious. That's why I say, like, for the women too. I mean, it's like they got to go through so much more as opposed to the men. Because like, I've had some of the men on the show, it's like, yeah, all they basically have to do is get their swimsuit ready when they're competing at these shows, and that's all they do.
Yeah, and their suit's probably like, I don't know, $50. Ours are like $1,000.
If that, yeah, yeah.
Really not fair.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably show up for my like $10 swimsuit and probably still get away with it. And it's just,
there you go.
Yeah, it's absolutely
Put
ridiculous.
a little glitter on it.
Oh, well, yeah, I'd have to bedazzle it. Yeah, yeah, that would actually be pretty funny. But now, like you mentioned it before, but one of the hardest things that a lot of these competitors and the general public doesn't really know about is posing. For a lot of people, it's harder than their workouts. It's harder than their nutrition that they have to follow. What was that experience like for you? Was that a struggle for you, the posing wise? Because I always like to say, I mean, it's kind of just like driving. You can be a great driver. You can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser, but you can never be a perfect poser. It's always ever evolving. Has that been a struggle for you, the posing aspect, or was it something that you picked up naturally?
Well, it was kind of a struggle. I'm not very graceful, so you have to just practice it at least a half an hour every day. And I was working with the House of Pain, which is right here in the area, Steve Payne and his group over there. And then also I'm very lucky in that Sid Gillen lives not too far from here. So I worked with Steve on most of everything, and then I got with Sid for the transitions. So, I'm really very fortunate in that I have these great people that helped me. And both of them said to me, when I started working with them, you are going to have your pro card within a year.
Yeah.
And sure enough.
That's absolutely
just
amazing.
A lot of practice.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's just like everything else in life. I mean, once you get that muscle memory down, the posing really, really helps. But I mean, so many people just don't realize, it's like you're flexing everything for a lot of these poses.
Exactly.
Most people just look at the areas that are affected. I mean, especially for physique, when we talk about that, I mean, it's like, it's just an illusion where people just look at the one body part that you're supposed to hit them at. But, everything is, and it's just like everyone that I have on that is on Instagram too. I mean, it's just like with Instagram photos where you got to hit the right angle at the right time, and just with the lighting, it's so much stuff that a lot of people do not look into it all. Because I always like to say, I mean,
Correct.
you could be the most muscular person on the planet, and if you're a horrible poser, that doesn't mean anything to you, especially when it comes to
Correct.
competition.
And what looks good on somebody that's posing this direction, you have to turn just a little bit to make sure that your waist, I have a very wide waist, so I have to turn a certain way to make my waist look smaller. And also when I worked with Sid, she really helped with my conditioning on my posing, because when you're up there posing, you're not just doing your fast turns. The judges may have you stand there for 2 minutes in a pose. So she really helped me to, remember to keep, engaging all my muscle, firing your quads the whole time while you're standing there. It's hard. I was pouring down sweat.
A lot of people don't realize too, sometimes you're up there for like up to 25 minutes because they'll have everyone, they'll just have you stand there, they have you wait, comparing, where, I mean, just it's a lot. And a lot of people do say too, it's like I sweat more during some of my posing sessions than I did for any of my workouts, just because you just got to be so focused and you got to be so into it. I mean, I couldn't agree more. But now probably one of my favorite questions to ask is, I'm from the upper Midwest. I know that you were originally from the upper Midwest, but I'm very, very pale myself. Especially during the time of the year when we're not going to get that much sunlight. So I always love to ask, when you put that tan on, or even not even for the first time, but anytime you put that tan on, what is that feeling like for you? Because I always, we hear so many guests that are like, you see muscles pop out that you never even knew that you had. It's just so weird for a lot of people to just see that. What is that experience like for you?
Yeah, so it's really a lot of tan, and it's a lot of layers of tan. So in conjunction with the tan, when you're seeing the muscles come out, but you're also dropping all the water too, right? So it's like overnight, there's like this metamorphosis. So you get your first layer of tan, like let's say your show's on Saturday, you get your first layer of tan on Friday night, and your body's starting to change overnight. And then the next morning you get up and you're like, oh my God, I'm like a complete alien. You can see all these striations. And then with the tan, it really brings it out more. And the darker the tan, obviously the better under the light. So it's freaky.
Yeah. I mean, we've had, and a lot of people don't realize too, is that you basically have to become a statue for that day or whatever, because if you touch anything, if you sit on anything, it rubs off. So, I mean, basically, that's one thing people don't realize, is that these bodybuilders that like I said, you can basically just be in your poses the whole day and just like walk around like that, because I mean, you can't really do anything. You can't touch anything. So
you can't. Yeah. You have to pee through a little thing. It's like a whole Megillah.
Yep, a lot of people don't realize that I always like to tell a lot of people, because like they just don't seem to realize, just the struggle that goes within and of itself. But I mean, probably my favorite question to ask, I mean, I have a lot of up and coming bands on, I also have a lot of health and fitness guests, but this question applies to both. I mean, I like to ask my bands, what is that feeling like performing live on stage in front of a huge crowd? But I also like to ask, for competitors, that also applies as well. What is that feeling like for you when you get to walk on stage and, I mean, you've been prepping for months upon months, and it's just such a hard process that a lot of people don't really appreciate. But when you're finally able to go up on stage, show off all of that hard work, what is that feeling like for you?
It feels damn good. It was awesome. And that's another drug, really. You want to get up there. I mean, I wanted to get up there every single time, because you're so proud of yourself, and how far you've come, and you want to show everybody how great you look, because it's just really for that day. You know what I mean? It's the culmination of months and months of work for that day, really. And it feels so good.
100%. I always like to tell people, it's like, I always like to tell people 100%, like, find something in your life where you feel just so alive doing. I mean, for me, when I was like pitching with just the batter and the catcher, where you could just really just feel that, that aliveness. I mean, it's like, find that one thing in your life that brings you joy, and just go with it. I mean, that's one of the keys, I think, in at least from my young experience in life, to having a happy life. But I mean, now now we get to the fun stuff. So now, what is your go-to post-show meal?
Post-show meal? Donuts. And there are some badass vegan donuts here in Atlanta. My husband gave me the stink eye for sure when I was tearing up 6 donuts, but I ate every single crumb.
Oh yeah, This is the part of the podcast that always makes my mouth watery. So I always try, to be careful with it, because I don't want to go and have a ton. I mean, I did have last time we talked about it. I ended up going to Five Guys Burgers and Fries because I just got too hungry from talking. But yeah, so now I got to make sure I don't go to like Dunkin' Donuts or whatever around here and just absolutely pig out. But I mean, probably one of my most important questions I love to ask, because so many people do not understand this. I have friends that, they'll come up to me and they'll be like, hey, some of these bodybuilders that you have on the show, I mean, they must be, just ripped and shredded 365 days out of the year. And it's like, a lot of them do look amazing, 365 days out of the year, but a lot of people don't realize that when you guys are at your stage lean, you sort of manipulate your body through all of the hard work and all of the nutrition into looking, that's not a sustainable look. I mean, you're not going to be able to look that way 365 days a year. Some people just think that because they only see the competition photos, or they only see some people's photos on Instagram that they like to post of like months before when they aren't. So a lot of the times, I mean, it's a shock for people when they see some of these people in the gym and they're like, oh, they don't look like they're in competition season or whatever. And it's like, well, no, they're going to put on weight. But for you mentally, I mean, was that a struggle at all, sort of realizing that all these months of hard work that I put into the gym, it's not a sustainable look and I am going to have to put on weight? Was that a struggle for you at all?
Yeah, I think that's like probably one of the hardest challenges for me, coming off a show and then you kind of immediately gain weight, which in your head it has to happen for your joints and for your organs and everything. But then you're like kind of directionless. So you're gaining weight. Maybe you don't have the next goal. So yeah, I mean, it's depressing for sure. And really my goal this time around is to stay as lean as possible. And I know it's not stage lean, but so I don't have to do, 40 minutes of cardio for 2 months. Yeah. At my age, it's really hard on my knees too, to do all that cardio. And who has the time, frankly? So I'm just going to stay as lean as possible through the process.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm lucky where, now that it gets cold up here in Minnesota, where I just play pond hockey with my friends like 3 days a week. And that's my cardio, where it's a nice, fun way to do it. But I know, like going on the treadmill, that was my thing that I hated the most in college, going and doing that. I mean, it was so dull and, but yeah, it
is. Arnold says lift weights faster. So I'm going to do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, Arnold, he's whatever he says, I mean, I'll take him word for word. He's one of those people.
That's right. He didn't do a lot of cardio.
He's basically the Bible when it comes to bodybuilding. So, listen to whatever he has to say. But I always, for people that are out there who haven't known already, but she's a mom, everyone out there. So, I mean, makes everything even more impressive. Being a mom, like I always like to say, is a full-time job. And you also have a job where you work 50 hours a week, which, I mean, how you're still able to find, time to go to the gym. I know you get up super early, but how has that been a struggle for you, sort of time commitment wise? Because I mean, you basically have 3 careers: bodybuilding, being a mom, and being with your regular job. How are you able to balance those 3?
Well, I don't get a lot of sleep. Yep. So, I mean, I get up at 3:30 in the morning to eat before I go to the gym. So it makes a long day. But also my daughter's at college, so I don't really, she's been away for 2 years. So I don't really have that whole thing, other than I worry about her and I'm her money tree. But I don't really have that burden, I guess, to put it one way. I have my husband to take care of, and my dog and my house, but you just make the time for it. If it's important to you, I mean, like they say that everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. So it's whatever you want to do with that 24 hours, whatever's important to you, then you'll make time for it. And I get sick and tired of people saying, I don't have time to go to the gym. Well, you have 25, half an hour at lunch, do something.
Yeah, I mean, I have nurses on here that work like 14-hour shifts, and they're still able to find time in it. So it's like, it's all about your priorities. Although I will like to say, guys like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, they must have like 27 hours, because how they're able to get all their movie roles done and how they're still able to look that good, I have no idea. So he might be the one person out of the entire planet that has the secret, where he knows, maybe how to get a few extra hours out of the day. But yeah, other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, everyone else, probably has, the same.
But they're bringing a whole gym to the movie. That's true. And they're coaches and trainers. They're working him out and giving him the right diet. I mean, he has everything at his disposal, right?
Oh yeah, that would be nice to have someone that cooks everything for you just on your whim, and then brings the gym. Yeah. So that really is awesome. But I mean, probably one of the biggest stereotypes I love to bust on here is it's gotten better the last 5 years because of Instagram, but there still are just so many women that believe if they touch one weight, they are going to turn into like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson overnight. And, I always like to say that, I would hire them and I'd pay them all the money that I ever had, because they would have found out the secret. But I mean, did you ever have that fear when you were starting out coming in from running? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet you hear that all the time. What is your main response to that?
So now I'm like, yes, I want to, I want to be bulky, but I mean, I think it just depends upon what the effort you put into it. My best friends are bikini competitors, and they're in the gym 6 times a week. So it just depends upon the muscles that you're working, the amount of weight that you're lifting, if you're tearing your muscles, and everybody's different, right? So, and every body is different. So you just have to get to know it.
100%. And I gotta say, does she look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Hulk Hogan or all those guys? And she's been working out for that long. It's like, come on, people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I always love to tell the story of when I was in college. You know, my one of my good friends actually in college, she would always say, you know, like, Ryan, you're working out a lot, and I want to come to the gym with you, but I'm just afraid I'm going to get too bulky or I'm going to get too muscular. And then finally one night I just said, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse when we go out to clubs or when we go out to eat weighs more than a lot of the dumbbells in the gym, and you're not putting on any muscle from that. So that really sort of convinced her, and it's just one of those things where you just got to realize, you know, like, hey, I'm not getting big and I'm not getting bulky, and just to go in there and just say, hey, I'm just going to try it, because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to get stronger and you're going to get healthier.
And not only that, but it doesn't come naturally for women to be big and bulky, right? It's going to have to take some kind of something else to get that big, and then you have to maintain it. So
100%. Yeah, believe me, like there's some guys where I would have on the show and I don't even tell them that, because I'm like, okay, yeah, they do look like Hulk Hogan or Dwayne The Rock Johnson, where I'm like, okay, so we're not gonna, you know, get onto that top. But
we probably leave that alone.
Yeah, probably valid. Yeah, but yeah, for a lot of others, I mean, yeah, it takes so much more hard work and dedication, and it's just, it's one of those ridiculous things. But now, I mean, these two are probably some of my more favorite questions. Are when I started, you know, to go to college and started getting bigger and stronger. The one negative thing for me is that you're gonna get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean,
how much do you bench?
Oh, well, yeah, that all the time. But I'm still at home with my parents for the next few months, just because I work at UPS. I'm about to be transferred. So then when I find my new facility, that's where I'm going to move to. But one of the things, when my parents come home with groceries, I basically lift the car into the driveway with the groceries in it and take them in. So have you found that sort of, you know, the way that you look, people just assume that you can do favors for them?
Yes. I mean, it's not just the muscle, but it's the height too. So it's lift heavy stuff.
Thankfully.
Off the top.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I get a lot of that. And it's, not just moving furniture, but, you know, just random people. I actually go to a lot of places with my arms covered, because there's always the old man that's like, come on, let's arm wrestle. You know, it's constant. Oh, so I try to hide it a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, someone with the height thing realizes, because like I always say myself, I could be the skinniest guy ever, but if I'm wearing a sweater and someone sees me walking down the street, they're like, oh, this guy could help me out if I need anything. So it's...
Yeah, that's right. You can reach it.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, we're kind of cursed both ways, with the muscles and with the height, where we're just... It's not going to work out for us when it comes to, like, even last summer... every other weekend it would be a friend text me going like, hey Ryan, I need help moving. Can you help move my couch or my chair? It got to the point where I just realized, you know, like, hey, they recognize, you know, that I work out, and it's nice. Right. I also told them, I said, you know, like, wait until after I'm done working out, and because I'm not going to do it before I work out, because I don't want to get too tired that I'm not going to be able to work out after I move your entire house for you. But
right, it's totally different.
People, I mean, only a few. I've had 2 other people that are super tall on the pod, or are taller on the podcast, so we only have a few people that can really understand. But now, probably my favorite question, and this is a multi-million-dollar idea for everyone out there who's listening, but when it comes to clothes for fit women and women with muscle, your clothing options can be limited. I always like to say, you know, if you have big shoulders, dresses are out of the picture. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time, where they just don't seem to fit. But what are some ways that you sort of compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
So I pretty much buy everything that's stretchy. You know, it has to be stretchy. And I wear a lot of leggings, and I'm sure a lot of girls do. I mean, I have a professional job, so I'm not a trainer. I don't get to wear gym clothes all day, every day. So I have found a few brand name clothing items, and I'll just buy that same thing in every color. You know, like dress pants that have some stretch to them, and just, you know, find a good tailor. Basically, because if you need a certain size for up here, you probably don't need the same size for down here. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
it is hard though.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I love to ask, because I always say, like, if there's anyone out there, come up with a clothing brand, for, you know,
Yes.
muscular people in general, not just women. I mean, men have their own struggles, but it's like you come with that. I mean, people, I've had so many guests that are willing to pay you money for the clothes. So just make them. I mean, it's like you're going to make a decent amount of money just from my guests alone, just buying them from you. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's what I always
Yeah,
like to say.
it is a challenge for sure.
Oh, 100%.
I'm
And
always looking.
I mean, I always like
If
to tell
anybody
this.
wants to hit me up on Instagram, let me know where
Oh,
to shop.
absolutely. And I always like to tell the story. I came back when I was in college. I had gained about 15 pounds of muscle over the year. And I came back for a friend's wedding, and putting the stuff on was a little bit tight. And then when I went to bend over during the reception, I heard a rip. Luckily, it wasn't the suit. Luckily, it was just the shirt inside the suit. So I at least, you know, could play it off a
You
little
could cover
bit.
it, yeah.
But then
That's right.
but then, you know, I sort of realized I was like, hey, you know, I might need to buy, you know, bigger clothes because I have put on a little bit more muscle. So yeah, it's the clothing thing is a huge thing that I don't think too many people really tend to realize. So it's just, you know,
Right.
it's one of
Yeah.
those,
I mean,
one
I
of those
think I've
things.
rotated through my entire closet this last year. Thank God for Poshmark because I've made some
Oh,
pretty
yep.
good money on that
Yep.
app.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to find just any tips that people have. It's just it just helps, especially with the muscular people, just
Yeah.
save money as well. And another huge thing too is especially like the supplements that you take, and just the protein shakes, anything that you do costs so much money too that a lot of people don't realize that too. I mean, it's like bodybuilding
Oh,
is not a
yeah.
sport. Bodybuilding is a sport where you're going to lose a lot of money. You're not going to make a lot of money.
Oh,
Yeah.
you don't make any money,
Oh
honestly.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I wish, you know, honestly, well, maybe if someone would have warned me how much it was going to be
Yeah.
for different things, like
Yeah.
not just for the training, but for the suit and for the posing, for
Mhm.
just for entering into the competitions, I may have thought, you know,
Yeah.
had a second thought about it.
Yeah, you just stay in the gym and you'll still put on muscle, but you mean you might not have competed then. So it's just, you know,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
it's
And I
yeah,
mean, I do have my pro card now, so
yeah,
I could
luckily,
feasibly compete for money, but I'm
yeah,
only going to compete as a master. I'm not going to
yeah,
do anything. I'm not going to compete against 20-year-olds. I'm
mhm.
not kidding myself. But the money prizes go down so much because the women that are over 35 do not have the draw that, you know, the 20-year-olds do.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe I'll make something back this next year.
I mean, one of the big reasons I didn't compete was, you know, I didn't get muscular enough, but also another reason when everyone else told me, I said, I'm too pale. I mean, you really think that this skin would look good in tan? So, I mean, I'm very,
Yeah, come
very,
on. You can do
so,
it.
yeah, well, it also got to the thing too, where I was just like, you know, I was not, you know, I'm just a little too tall too, where it was just, my muscles don't really proportion, since I had the pitcher's body where, you know, I was just skin and bones, or I wasn't like skin and bones, but, you know, I was just, you know, just lanky and just,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it took me forever to just sort of put on a lot of muscle. And I started in high school, but, you know, I was able to develop it a little bit later. But yeah, so it would be such a time process for me. I mean, I would have to take like 5 years of just training constantly, where I'd just be like, okay, now I'm
Just
finally ready.
building, yeah.
Yeah. So,
My coach is actually 6'3". It's a husband and wife coach, and he's 6'3",
mhm.
and he's a competitive bodybuilder, and he's just huge. I mean, of course, now he's 38 years old, and it has taken him probably, you know, 18 years to
Yeah.
get there. Honestly,
Which is, I mean, which is why we come into our tall questions that I love to ask, you know, all of our tall guests. I mean, did you find that it did take you a little bit longer to build muscle than it does for the average person? Just because, like I say, with us tall people, we got longer bones. So, I mean, it takes a little bit longer for our muscles to fill out. Do you find that that was more of a time process for you?
Oh, definitely. And like you said, it's hard to be patient, right? You want instant gratification. You're like, I'm busting my ass in here 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. Why is this not happening more quickly, right? And it's just because your muscles are so much longer. It takes a while. And on top of that, I'm not 25 years old, right? So it's harder for older people to build. So then to remember, you just have to continue to eat to build. So it's just so much. It's a mind game, honestly.
Which makes the whole vegan thing even more impressive. So I think we're talking to one of the most genetically blessed people that we've ever had on the podcast. Everyone out here, oh yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
it's just amazing. I mean, we've had people on here too where you're just like, I mean, I have that one friend too. Everyone has that one friend that seems where the guy has never touched a weight a day in his life, and he's more muscular than me. It's just his genetics where, I mean, he can go through like 5 Milky Ways a day, and he just doesn't put on a pound, where it's just like, I hate you. Like, I've told him that many times, like, I hate you as a person. And my dad even has a friend like that too. And my dad's about to be 60, and he has a friend like that in college still. Guy can still looks like he's worked out every day in his life. Guy hasn't touched a weight in like the last 20 years. Still eats, you know, junk food like crap all the time. Doesn't gain an inch, and it's I hate him so much every time I see him. I mean, the guy just drinks a lot of beer too. Doesn't put on it. I mean, how this guy is able to pull it off. I mean, yeah, I have
I was kind of like that up until I turned 40, and everybody kept saying, it's gonna one of these days eating like that's gonna catch up with you. I mean, I eat so much pasta and junk food, and yeah, it did catch up with me.
The one good thing though I'd say about being tall, especially in the bodybuilding thing though, is that you can put on more weight than a lot of other people, and it can, you can sort of hide it a little bit better than a lot of other people because there's more room to do it. So I mean, it's like, yeah, you can eat, you can get away with a few things, but still, I mean, there's so much things with the height thing where it can be a huge struggle. But now our audience favorite and my favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire. We're going to ask Laurie here about a dozen or so questions and see how she stacks up to all the other health and fitness guests that we've had on. Oh yeah. Oh, this is just a walk in the park. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
I really like, I don't know the names of them. Mm-hmm. Can I just look at my phone really super quick?
Oh, no problem.
Honestly, my daughter has been helping me a lot with my playlists because I don't know these songs that the kids listen to. So I listen to a lot of Drake.
Ooh.
So I definitely like, let's see, I like God's Plan is a good one. Mm-hmm. And the one that has the Kiki in it.
Kiki.
Feelings. It's called In My Feelings.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
I'm going to be completely honest. I do not listen to any of the current music really at all. I'm one of those old school where I'll have like the 80s music that I love that I listen to when I work out.
Flashdance.
Oh, okay. That's one of my songs, but I don't listen to it. I only listen to that if I'm really, really excited that day. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's one of my dad's favorite movies. I mean,
that's a great movie.
So yeah, when it came on, he works at home a lot. So when I was watching it downstairs, a couple of weeks ago, he ran out of his office and started watching the rest of it with me for like the last half hour. He's like, "Oh my god, this is a great movie." He's like, "Ryan,"
he knew all the words,
and I was laughing at it too. And he's like, "You got to realize, Ryan, at the time, it was like there's nothing like this when it came out or whatever like that." So I was like, "Okay,
so
whatever."
true."
I was like, "Whatever, Dad. I don't get it because I work nights and he works days, so we have that overlapping time during the afternoon where
they can bond. Yeah,
we can bond a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Over Flashdance.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what and he's also like ABBA's like one of his favorite bands. So I mean, I don't know. I've always told him, I was like, Dad, are you sure that you and Mom are the right fit? So we always give him that joke. But now, I mean, if you could work out with any celebrity out of all the celebrities on the planet, who would it be?
I think Pink has a really great body. Yep. I'd like to see what she does for her workouts.
Yeah, she has. Yeah, she is very, very interesting. And thank you for not saying Dwayne The Rock Johnson, by the way. Out of all of our health and fitness guests, 90% of the time that has been the answer. So we finally
I would just like to be near him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't necessarily want to work out with him because I want to still look like I know my shit, and not feel super intimidated. Yeah. But I would like to see what Pink does because she looks hella good.
We had one person with a great personality though, where she was like, she's 5'1" and she said, "I want to train Dwayne The Rock Johnson." And I was like, okay. Oh. I was like, pipe down there a little bit. Like it's like let's be honest here. But yeah, that was one of the more funnier answers that we had. But yeah, Pink, I actually have a funny story. So one of our guests that we had on earlier, Jody Lyons, she ran into her at a bar in Vegas when she used to live there, and they actually had drinks for like an hour. And they hung out. So that was really, really cool. And then another guest actually, ran into her at a gym at Gold's in LA where she was there. So yeah, Pink has actually been one of our more popular answers, and I completely understand. Just she does look amazing. But yeah, for me it's it's Arnold, just because it's Arnold. I mean, if I could work out with anyone, just to hear him yell in his Austrian accent is probably one of the greater things in life. Just to hear that would be
that'd be awesome.
Hilarious too. But now sort of going on to what I already prepped for. Out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
If I could train any celebrity, who would it be? Maybe Jennifer Lawrence, because I think that she thinks that she's really cool and kind of a badass, and I'd like to be able to put her in her place.
I could not agree with you more. One of my biggest pet peeves is these celebrities that post these workouts where like, oh my god, giving for this movie role, and they're curling like 2-pound dumbbells. And they're like, oh my god, getting in such great shape. And then like 6 weeks later, they're super, super lean. And it's like, first of all, you're lying to the public on how you got that workout done or how you got that look done. Because that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're basically starving, and you get these personalized trainers that know every single trick and trick to do to get you to look that way. So it's like you're lying to the people, and then people think that workout is acceptable. And second of all, I mean, these are the ones, I mean, they're even worse than like, especially the show people who are, you only look that good for one day. These people look good for a movie role, and then they never do it again, where it's just like, then they put it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would like to put her in her place.
I always like to say, if I could train like a Jonah Hill, that would be hilarious, because he's one of the guys, I want to know what all of that losing and gaining weight has done for his body, because he's gone through like 8 or 10 times where he's like been up to 300 pounds and then he goes down to like 150 pounds, just constantly.
Yeah, that can't be good for your body.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like that kind of dieting.
Absolutely. Or like a Christian Bale who like has gone to those extremes too, where he had that one movie role where he went down to like 98 pounds, and then like 6 months later he was already up to like 200 pounds for his role in Batman. So I was like, ugh, yeah.
Yeah. Or what about the guy, 30 Seconds to Mars guy?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Jared Leto.
Blue Eye. Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Yes, he did the same thing, like be emaciated for his movie.
Or like Matthew McConaughey too, when he did that movie where he played that guy who had AIDS too, or cancer, where he got super skinny. Where it's like that's not. I mean, it's like So
how do you do that?
They just seem to do that. But yeah, Jennifer Lawrence would be a huge. Like we have so many answers like Kevin Hart and Ellen DeGeneres, and I always say to that, you're gonna get more of an ab workout than anything else because you're not gonna be able to get a workout in. They're gonna make you laugh the whole time. So it's just 100%. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
An item always in my fridge probably would have to be broccoli.
Broccoli. I almost had a gag reflex right there. Listen, I
eat like 3 cups of broccoli a day.
That was my one food when I was growing up, where I have scars from it, where I just hated it, but then my parents would always make me eat it, so I had to compensate. So this is disgusting, but I had to put it in ketchup. Then that was the only way that I could eat it. I disguised the broccoli taste with ketchup. You are so
from the Midwest.
Yep, I disguised the broccoli taste with ketchup, so then I could finally cheer it down. Yep. I know.
Yeah, you didn't have it the right way.
She's having flashbacks of her life in the Midwest, everyone. That's why she's saying that. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I was eating my tater tot hot dish, don't you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Stuff like that in between. 100
green bean casserole.
Oh, yep. I'm not gonna lie. I actually had that a couple weeks ago for Thanksgiving. So
of course, it was on every Thanksgiving Day table.
Thanksgiving table. Yep, 100% with my left son, my lutefisk, of course, obviously. So
yes, you're Norwegian.
Yep, very, very. I mean, Johnson. I always like to say they changed it at Ellis Island. It used to be SON, or it was SEN, but they changed it to SON, so it was Janssen. But they changed it to Johnson. Yep, very, very Norwegian on my dad's side, at least on my mom's side. We got a little Italian German, so that makes for an interesting family get together. You have the loud Italians coming up against like the very, reserved Norwegian Germans, so it really makes for interesting conversation.
Just to sit there and watch it must be fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you definitely tell. I mean, even though most of them look the same, you can definitely tell whose side of the family everyone is on. 100%.
Yeah, right.
Very, very entertaining. But now, what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person, other than your height? I'll say I won't give you that easy answer.
Other than my height, maybe just my overall size. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to know, but I'm just kind of huge. I mean, people have said to me, "You look like a stallion." Mm-hmm. I'm just a very big person. Not just height, but just overall.
Oh well, yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything else.
I mean, we can see that right. We can see that right now, just looking at you. We're like, yeah, God, she's in great shape. Yeah.
Or that I'm like really friendly. Maybe I don't know.
Well, that's a good thing too to have. I mean, because a lot of people. I mean, probably for you, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Where I mean, people, if you were to be even shorter and they see you with the muscles, they might be intimidated by you. But then just to see you being so tall, I mean, that's like a double-edged sword. So I mean, being really friendly, I mean, must sort of be almost like a survival thing for then you too. Because I'm being serious because we hear that all the time from a lot of our guests, where it's like people are so intimidated by me that you sometimes have to act more friendly than you normally would act just to let everyone put their guard off.
Yeah, but I think it's just more just being from the Midwest.
Yep, too.
I think that's just normal, just the way we grew up. Yep. We're just that kind of people.
Yep. Was that hard? Was that sort of an adjustment for you moving down to the South, where I mean, they can, there is that Southern comfort, they can be Southern hospitality, but it isn't the same as the Midwest, where Midwest people go out of their way to be nice to people.
That is very true. Well, it was a bigger culture shock for me because I moved to South Florida first.
Oh, yeah.
So I moved, I was a waspy girl, mm-hmm. kind of sheltered, living in the Midwest, and I moved right to the middle of Boca Raton.
Yep.
So it was like I never knew a Jewish person, yep. and then I was surrounded by them. Not that I have anything wrong with that, because I eventually married a Jewish man.
Yep.
I actually like living in Georgia now because we don't have the cold weather. It's a little bit cold, but we're so close to everything: the mountains, the beach.
Oh, I pity you, sir. I mean, I am so embarrassed. I mean, I hate I like hockey, so that's the one thing that gets me through the winter. But yeah, if I could go through, because also at UPS, I'm a supervisor, but I have to do yard check every night, so I have to go outside and check about 60 trailers, make sure there's nothing in them. And now when it gets to this type of weather, it's not my favorite thing to do. It's my least favorite thing out of the entire job. But now
it's cold out. I was in Chicago yesterday. It's chilly up there.
Oh yeah, it's bad. It's pretty bad. So now, what is one thing that you would change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the all-knowing power to do so?
Well, I think that it's getting a little bit too aggressive in terms of the muscularity. I mean, because they're kind of doing away with bodybuilding, right? So they have to have a place for these women who are in bodybuilding. So they're kind of moving down to physique. And I think that women are just required to be more muscular and harder than ever before. And it's pushing people to do things that they might not normally have done, and so that they can get there and be competitive. So I think that if I could change anything, it would be kind of to scale back the direction that I see it going.
Absolutely. That's one answer that we hear a lot too. I mean, and a lot of the answers too are also like, like the judging, it can get a little political, but then I always like to say, my vision for the future would probably be like 10 years from now or 15 years from now, where you just have all the competitors line up, then you have like a machine come out and it scans people, and then it determines like who has like the biggest like proportion or has the best proportions, and then they just award them the winner then. So then no one can really complain because they're like, oh, the machine scanned and like they judge like size, but so that's
that's not realistic, but
that's not realistic at all, but that's my pipe dream that I like to have then.
I mean, I think what a lot of competitors do is kind of follow judges around. So you get some judges' feedback, and then you're like, you know what, she's going to be a judge at the next show, so let me go there and compete in front of her and see if I'm making any progress. But I've heard that. I haven't really done.
Oh no, yeah, believe me, we've heard stories way worse than that. So yeah, we completely agree with that. But now, what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
It's been a minute before. So Orange is the New Black.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm not really one to, I don't have a lot of time, Ryan, to sit down and watch a lot of TV, even if it's binge watching. So it's probably been a year since I sat and watched.
Do you watch anything? Do you watch any of the shows when you're doing your cardio at least?
I don't have to do any cardio right now. You know what I watch? You know what I was watching the last summer when I was doing cardio was Queer Eye for Straight Guy.
Oh, yep.
They filmed it here in Atlanta, the new version of it, and I mostly watched it just to like see where they were going, what towns they were in, and that type of thing.
Yeah,
I do love that show.
So now, I mean, I know that you haven't watched TV as much, but what is your favorite TV show of all time?
My favorite TV show. Maybe Friends. Awesome. Or Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy was another good one.
Yep.
I got a lot of music. I got a lot of music out of Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, I'll list both of them. And just a fun fact too is that next week on the podcast, I'm happy. I mean, I've been announcing this forever, but we are having the lady that played Ross's first wife, the lesbian Carol, is coming on the podcast. Because she started a charity, and I've been emailing her the last couple of months and said, you can come on and talk about your charity. And she said, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to. But then I did tell her, I was like, you do realize half the questions are going to be friends questions, right? And she goes, oh, yeah, I get that all the time. So now I'm coming up with like the 30 to 40 best friends questions. And I'm just going to hurl them at her when she comes on. And I'll definitely send you the link to that because everyone wants, and I think it's going to be cool because I just want to ask her, like, how does a show like that change a person? I mean, even being a supporting actor on that show, I mean, like just being in a show that's that huge where everyone knows about you. It's just
that's right. Yeah. That's a game changer for sure.
I mean, I think that's gonna be a really, really cool conversation. So I think I have her. It's either next Tuesday or Wednesday. I got to double check my calendar.
Yeah, send me the link. I'd love to see it.
It's going to be very, very fun. But now, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy other than Flashdance?
Well, Flashdance. Yeah. I mean, I love watching. The Holiday is probably my favorite movie.
Oh, okay.
I've seen it a million times. My husband hates it.
Who's in that movie?
So it has is it Jude Law? So it has
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't I'm very bad with names.
Keira Knightley.
I can see everybody's faces. Yeah, I'm very bad with names.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, no.
It is a holiday movie because they trade houses over like the Christmas holiday. and things like love stories evolve, and I just like to be entertained. I don't really like to watch movies where there's a lot of killing and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not my jam.
Yeah, I mean, for when it comes to holiday movies, I'm one of those old school where I like those old sort of like claymation movies that come on, like the Santa Claus is coming to town, or like Frosty the Snowman. Those are my absolute favorite, or even like the old school Grinch, where the drawing one. I mean, that's that I love those movies at 100%. But my guilty pleasure movie, I mean, all my guy friends, again, close your ears. I'm never gonna admit this in person, but The Princess Bride is my guilty pleasure. My guilty pleasure movie. I can quote a lot of it. It's one of those movies. I mean, when I was in college typing my thesis paper, it came on the screen, and I paused my thesis paper and watched it for 2 hours. So yeah, it's one of those movies where I mean, I could be doing anything, other than podcasting, but it'll come on, and then I'll pause what I'm doing. Yep. Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, something's in the air. Like I feel a little differently. So, yep, that's mine 100%. Okay,
it's like a magnetic pull. Like
yeah, absolutely. So now all my guy friends, you can come back on the podcast. So now, like I said, I'll never admit my guilty pleasure was in person, but yeah. So now moving on, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
The best piece of advice would be, it probably would have more to do with staying away from boys. Honestly, I know probably a lot of people say, I wish I would have gotten into bodybuilding earlier, but I feel like everything happens for a reason, and in the period of life that it happens in. So I think it would be more about relationships. And I keep trying to tell my 20-year-old daughter this. I have experience in this, and she doesn't listen.
Those damn Wisconsin boys, I'll tell you.
I know.
Yep. I mean, yeah. So that's one of the things. I mean, for me, it would be like, you're not going to be able to please everyone. I was a big people pleaser, 6 years ago. So that's one thing, I sort of developed and learned.
Yeah, you have to live your life for yourself.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But now for a little bit more of a fun question, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Favorite, the least favorite fashion there's a few things. Padded shoulders, leg warmers, cowl necks, not a fan. And probably my favorite fashion trend is cool sneakers, any kind of cool sneakers. I just have an affinity for sneakers.
I have probably one of my really good friends from high school I still hang out with to this day. He spends half of every paycheck that he gets on sneakers. Like, I don't understand. Like, literally, we're talking.
It's easily done.
We're talking tens of thousands of dollars that he's at least spent on sneakers. Where I just tell him, I was like, okay, imagine what house you could have bought by now, or imagine what apartment you could live in now if you would have just been like me. Like, I'm one of those people where if I go shopping, let's just buy the cheapest thing. I don't care what it looks like. It's fine. It's fine with me. So it's like, I was like, imagine if you had my taste. I mean, it's like, because he's worked, his entire life. He's one of those workaholics where, I mean, this guy could work, 80 hours a week and it wouldn't be enough for him. So, I mean, he's like,
okay.
he's
so,
got
so
sweet.
That's just his thing. My husband buys guitars.
But literally over 200 pairs of sneakers this guy has. It's ridiculous. Where I'm just like,
sickness.
And so he's even had times where, because he knows that I work at nights, where during the day he'll text me and he'll be like, yeah, I got a new, because we're gonna probably get an apartment together when we do move with him and a couple other guys. But he'll text me and he'll be like, yeah, can you go to my house? There's some sneakers that just got ordered, and can you just take them for me, because I don't want anyone to come up and steal them or whatever. So he's like, so I'll come in, I'll pick them up at your house on the way home from work. And I was like, okay, whatever. And they're like, yeah, he's like, yeah, they're like $800 sneakers. So I was like, okay, it's like,
oh no! I have a child, so I have to draw the line somewhere.
He tries to sell them too, and he's like, yeah, I bought like 2 pairs or whatever. So I was like, okay, but still, dude, it's like, come on.
Yeah, there's an aftermarket for that, if they're hard to find.
Yeah, I give him credit for that at least. But now, I mean, for my favorite fashion trend, for me being in the Midwest and being when it's really cold, flannel is probably my favorite, just because it's so warm. But my least favorite, my dad used to rock a fanny pack in the late '90s, so that still scarred me to this day.
Dude, I have a fanny pack.
Well, here's what I say.
You can get them at Urban Outfitters now.
Here's what I say, though. Girls can rock a fanny pack, but guys, I mean, sometimes it's like, you can't.
Yeah, I know.
Guys can't. But for girls, I totally accept it, because, it's just.
You don't want to carry your purse a lot of times.
Yeah, but
not A lot of times you have to have the clear bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you go to events and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
fanny packs come in very handy when you want to dance and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, like my dad still to this day, that still scars me. So yeah, fanny packs for guys, I'll say then will be the thing.
Right. Yes, exactly.
But
I understand that.
yeah. So now we just finished up with the questionnaire. So now I got to ask, I know that it's probably in the winter time down there. What are your plans for Christmas? Do you still allow yourself to sort of binge on Christmas time for food wise, or are you still sort of restricting yourself?
How do you binge when you're a vegan?
That's
Like
true.
there's not a lot of stuff that I mean, I have to read the label for everything. There's certain things that I will definitely eat. I may have
Hmm.
a donut.
Mm.
But there are some things that I could possibly binge on. But most of the events that I go to, I have a hard time finding anything to
Hmm.
eat
Yep.
because it's, covered in cream sauce or whatever, and I just
Hmm.
don't normally eat that. So
Yep.
I'm a big proponent of bringing my own food everywhere.
Yep. And that's one
Do
of the
not be insulted.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just shows the hard work and dedication too that comes along with that. But are there any shows that you're currently looking forward to competing at, or is it just a process of where you're just sort of in, just the off season, or is there a date when you're going to compete next that you know of?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do Chicago
Hmm.
over the 4th of July. So that
Oh,
probably be my first show, and that will be my pro debut.
oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be my very first show. Either that, or I think that there's another show in Phoenix that is in September.
Oh, yeah. So
Maybe both.
Oh, absolutely. You could do both. But again, you guys, I mean, just looking at her, she's going to do great. I mean, we wish you nothing but the best of luck on your pro debut. I mean,
Thank you.
obviously, it's just super inspirational to talk to someone who's, just really been through it and has really, experienced, what the bodybuilding lifestyle is like. I mean, it always says it's just a huge inspiration. And everyone, I'll leave links down below to her Instagram. Go and give her a follow. I always like to say, it'll inspire you to get off the couch and stop eating those Twinkies. I mean, she really does put us all to shame just by taking one look at her and even looking at her Instagram photos. It's like, come on, people, what's your excuse to working out then? So again, Laurie,
Absolutely. Thank you.
Laurie, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. I mean, it was
I
really, really
appreciate it.
great talking to you.
Nice talking to you
Yep,
too. Thank you so much.
absolutely. So, well, before we go though, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I'd love to give a shout out to my coaches,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron and Dyron Bates, and you can follow Dyron at Dyron Bates at Dyron Bates. She does not have an Instagram, but
Oh.
definitely them and my posing coaches, my husband, my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
definitely so supportive of me through this whole thing. I've lost a lot of friends
Mm-hmm.
through this whole process. Do not get it, but I've
Yep,
gained a lot of friends too. So
absolutely.
definitely a lifestyle.
Absolutely. And again, we cannot thank her enough for coming on the show. It's so great having her on. Everyone, all of her links down below. Go and give her a follow. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Yep.